Welcome to the Newfoundland Lens. We're at episode number 10. It's the year in review for this year. And it's myself, Michael Winsor, and of course, Corey Babstock here is with me. And then this time, we're just going to go ahead and chat about our year in review from spring all up into the fall, and everything we saw and all the cool people that we met.
Spectacular season, Michael. Absolutely amazing. Every season, say, well, it's not going to get any better than that. And then every season, I come out and say, "Whoa, that was almost better than last season." But I don't think it comes down to it being better. It's just that we're in a situation where every season, the province itself, Mother Nature, offers up something completely different to us. So every season, no matter if we do the same number of tours, go to the same places, stay at the same places, every tour is completely different. And that was really driven home this year. Like every time we went, even to Bonavista, Vista, completely different. And, you can't ask for much more than that when it comes to this kind of thing. It was spectacular. And with best year for icebergs in my memory. So, I mean, that always helps.
We're fortunate this year we had a lot of icebergs in 28. We had people from all over the world that was there, and we had all kinds of television crews. Canadian Geographic was there doing some research and stories on them. It was quite a busy time out there.
Big for some headaches on our end, but there's no headaches we can't work through when it comes to trying to book places to stay. Because it is a small place. There's limited options for places to stay. So we had a situation last year. I had a great tour, one of my favorites of the year, with these three ladies from Ontario who were a lot of fun. But they called it was a 2 weeks notice to tour in. So we live a scramble to get places to stay. There was nowhere to stay in Twillingate, so we managed to book them somewhere just outside of Twillingate. And for me, I had to rely on the kindness of a friend who gave me a place to stay during the tour. It worked out great, though. Fantastic tour. Just wasn't busy. Even trying to get somewhere to eat was, it was crowded. There was places on wheels. Everybody, the nice thing was everybody was happy because there were icebergs were everywhere.
Yeah, there were actually in Bonavista. There was quite a few in that area as well. So it was great. Because with Mother Nature, when it comes to icebergs, it's not, guaranteed. But when we had such a good season, it makes our life a lot easier.
We had a couple of icebergs that were grounded and stayed within an area for a long time. So it was nice to know that we could go there. They would be there because they were hung up there and they were there for weeks. That one, and the Twillingate, that big one, that was there for a long time.
That was from the first tour of the season. Was almost the end of June, July. It was massive.
Even when it broke up, like those pieces stayed in around for a long time. We went out toward the end. It was broken up at that point, but there was what happened then. We had 4 or 5 smaller icebergs that we could photograph, and it was fantastic.
When I with a tour of 2 people from the States, they came back their second time coming back to spot a private tour, and we went out at night. Actually, they were kind of seasoned photographers. And we was just kind of sitting on side the cliff there, like under the moonlight, and taking pictures of the iceberg, like a long exposure. And to me, that's what photography is all about, is experiences in between the pictures. So we're just sitting back and, the smell of the salt water and just under the moonlight, and so peaceful. We're just kind of looking at the iceberg there under moonlight. It was pretty spectacular.
Funny, you talked about that. I had a guest from Ontario as well, a young lady traveling on her own. Wildlife photographer, fantastic company. I mean, it was a really nice trip. But that experience, we were at the Puffin colony in Elliston, and we went in for a sunrise shoot. And Michael, I've been going to that colony for a lot of years. You've been going there for a lot of years too. I've never in my life seen as many puffins come over to our side as came that morning. And I spent more time with my camera just laid down beside me, lying back in the grass, just letting the puffins walk toward me and fly over me. And that I looked over at my guest and she was doing the same thing, camera down, just sitting back, kind of arm folded across her chest, just taking that whole experience in. And it was magical. Now, we, filled up a memory card full of photos, but to just sit with the camera down. And I tell my guests that all the time, like when we go out there, I say, at some point, put the camera down and just soak up where you are. And, the environment you're in, and just that whole experience. Because I think what I tell them, a lot of times photographers become so focused on this that we lose sight of the bigger picture. So, like you were saying with the the ladies out twiddling, just taking in the fact of where you are and what you're doing and at that moment of time. That's probably one of my most enjoyable parts of touring. Actually, is seeing the look on people's faces when they're in those situations. It's like bliss.
So, yeah, like I said, even when I teach photography at the college, the most important thing I find, and like you said, is not just look and see what's in that little rectangle. It's basically, to me, you get better pictures when you have a feeling. So if you put the camera down and you take it in and you kind of feel it, and you kind of see where the images are versus just trying to shoot everywhere and hopefully you get something. And- but definitely, like I said, we always try to get people to realize where they are and take in like the smells, the sounds, and you know, once you feel it, then I find you always get better pictures.
100% because you're more in the moment, and
Oh, yeah.
that's more than your photo.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you're out in the Zodiac and there's a well out there
Oh,
and they're breaching, then it's just pure adrenaline and excitement.
yeah, we
Yeah.
had it was a good it was a good season for whales too. We had some really good whale activity in Bonavista Vista this year.
Yeah, I find we always get good well action. Like I said, I always tell people, even in our podcast, is that usually find July is the best month for consistent wells. But
You like it too because you got that's almost peak puffin time too, right? So you got your whales and your peak puffins. If you're coming for icebergs, it might be a bit in July. But if you're looking for the whales and the puffins and that kind of thing, July is and weather. July is good.
that's the wildlife season I find. But if you're looking for icebergs, you still might get some whales, of course, around the icebergs in June. But if you do, it's cool to get both in the one shot.
Yeah, it's bucket list for me. I don't have a whale and an iceberg in the same shot yet. So
I got some tails. I got whale tails and icebergs. I always try and dream of getting that breach with the icebergs behind, but without some kind of Photoshop magic there, it's kind of hard to do.
that's the thing. You never know. Like you get into that moment, you never know. Like that's we talked about this when we did our whale podcast last year. When I got that double breach, like two of them coming out at the same time. Like that was always a dream to get that, but you never know when that's going to present itself, when that's going to happen. That's the magical thing about being out there. Is you never know. You never know what's going to show up.
Capture the beauty of wildlife, icebergs, and incredible landscapes through your own camera lens. With expert instruction, workshops, guided tours, and more. Newfoundland Photo Tours. Book your experience today.
Looking back at the season, what kind of stands out most for you, Corey?
This season in particular, well, we talked about the icebergs were just, it was just a wonderful, wonderful season for that. But what stood out for me is the just how busy it was. Like there were people, and not just with us, but everywhere. Like the entire province was just on wheels, and everybody was happy. Everywhere I went, everybody had a smile on their face. Everybody was excited about where they were and what was going on. It was just a really, really good vibe this whole season, everywhere we went. And it made it enjoyable for me as a guide. And I know my guests, they comment on it. The hands on, like how, geez, everybody's happy all the time. Everybody's bubbly all the time. And it was fantastic. So, I mean, anytime you're doing something that you at the end of the day, you come away feeling really positive about, that's a win for me. And that's this season in a nutshell. Every day was a positive.
Find that a lot of people know what we are and when it comes to pictures and how great it is, but I find it's really becoming more of a destination now because I always said in the past, like everyone knows people go to Iceland, but now I find, well, we have just as much or even more there and people are discovering.
Yes.
So now people are trying to come here, which is great.
Oh yeah, and like my favorite time to be shooting down in Elliston now, and we've done a lot this year is for sunrise because the sunrise is right at the back of the colony. So you get those nice, and I've gotten a bunch this summer of nice silhouette shots of the puffins in the foreground with sunrise in behind. And it's quiet down there, so there's not a lot of people around. So
When you go down there for sunrise, you only got probably 3, 4 photographers, I'd say, that's really there.
birders, that's what's down there, right? Yeah.
Mm.
So, but you're right. You pick, and that's another advantage that we have as locals is that we know when the busy times are, we know when to go and when not to go. And I've said that to my guests, like we'll drive by so I can show them where it is, I said, we're not going to bother to go out there right now because, as you can see, there's a crowd out there. Light's not great. We're going to come back tomorrow morning when the lighting is good and it's, less people, and we're going to get some banger shots. But we've had some great luck in other locations other than that colony as well, as you mentioned. The lighthouse area has been, a boon to me this year. Some of my best Puffin photographs have been around the Cape Ana Vista Lighthouse this past season.
So there's a new update too with the Nelson, is they actually finally the actual trail that's going out through the Puffins. They actually are working on that, and they actually getting more of a smoother path. And anyone in the past that went up there, when you get up over the cliffs, there's a lot of rocks and it's kind of hard to get through. But it looks like now that they actually have that updated and they got a path going up there, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm looking forward to.
I go down to Catalina and do some photos. They got your log hunters, everything decorated, Christmas lights in Catalina right now. So I go down probably later this week and do some photos of that. I'm going to take a run down to Elliston and see what the Puffin Site Trail looks like. And I'm excited to see that because I've had folks who couldn't go out there, like just looked at it and said, nope, can't go over those rocks. And Michael, yourself, you and I, we've almost carried people out of sometimes to make sure that they get out there safely to get the photos that they want. It's nice to be able to access that site a little bit easier.
Because 2 instances actually where I had people come from away, a couple from the States, and they got there and it was so bad when it comes to getting up over the rocks there a bit that unfortunately one of them couldn't actually make it in there, so they had to go back to the car and kind of wait. And unfortunately, they wouldn't, the photographer that came, I even offered him to take him on the back, but they wouldn't go for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so good to see that they spent some money and they got that upgraded. And 100%. They do have signs out there as well now telling people that you got to stay back for a certain distance from the Puffins, which is also good.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing, the site's gotten more and more popular over the years, and it looks like they're, leading into that, taking care of it a bit, and making sure it's a good experience and a safe experience for everybody, but protecting the animals at the same time. So that's good to see.
Oh, one of the most important things that I find people come to Newfoundland for is to photograph the Puffin.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing to me, actually. I say all the time, like, how excited people are, but, this little small bird that we take for granted, a lot of us. It's amazing. That's alluded to it earlier about seeing looks on our guests' faces, and there's nothing better than taking them out to the Puffin colony and just seeing that reaction that they have to when a Puffin comes over close, especially. Oh man, that's a lot of fun. Just looking at the way their faces light up when they come over.
Well, what was a moment in any tour that you did this year that kind of remind you of why you like doing what we do?
So it's a hard question, Michael, because every tour is different, right? So every tour has its own unique ups to it. Again, I got to go back to the reaction of people to what we see. Sometimes they get surprised and they see things that they weren't expecting to see. I remember I had a mother and daughter, and we went out from Bonavista Vista going towards Redcliffe that way, and the sperm whales were there. Sperm whales weren't even on their radar. No idea they were going to see sperm whales, and it was this gorgeous flat calm day, and the whales were just doing a big show with the tails, and they were just so excited about that, and it was so unexpected. That's just one example. I think that's what really excites me, though. I had no idea. It happened a few times. The Stellar sea eagle was hanging around. And a lot of people didn't realize that the Stellars is still around. And a couple of times we're here for our guests and give them the experience that they want. We took a run out. It wasn't part of the itinerary, but we took a run out looking for the Stellar sea eagle. And a couple of times we saw them. They got some photos. That was fantastic.
Yeah, it was cool. For me, I guess, whales, humpback whales, and zodiac when I'm breaching is always my thing. Every time I see it, blows my mind. I get goosebumps, and I start yelling so loud, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I just enjoy it so much. But we also do other things too that, when people come and they ask, can we do such and such? It's like we always step up and have any way possible. Because I had a group and they basically want to take pictures of a lot of architecture of buildings in the province. So we did that. And they also mentioned to me while they were here, is there any way to get out and take some pictures of people that's lobster fishing? I was like, so the good thing about us, we're local and we know pretty much everybody, the tour operators or fishermen or anything. So of course I called up someone and I asked them basically, is there any way to, if you're going out doing on your lobster traps, is there any way for us to get, myself and the guests on the boat to maybe get some pictures of you lobster fishing? We reached out to them, and the great thing again about Newfoundland people is that we're all accommodating and happy to help. So this particular time, we're out up the rocks there in Pools Island. They're on the Bonavista Bay Peninsula, and in the bay, and we're just there, and the people are hauling up the lobster pots, and there's lobsters, and we got pictures of the guests holding lobsters, and they're all excited, and we got some pretty big lobsters too. And yeah, it was great. Look on their face of, how excited they are to hold a lobster.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to, again, go back to those 3 ladies we had from Ontario that we did the 20-gate tour with. They wanted to have lobster while they were here. They wanted to eat lobster. And a good friend of mine, Crystal Anstey, Crystal, outdoor cooking, we're on the beach, and called her the last minute. She managed to squeeze us in for 3, and we sat on the beach, and we had lobster boiled with water right from the bay, fresh scallops, everything right on the rocks there. There was an osprey fishing overhead, diving while we were there. The whole experience was magical. And that wasn't something they had expected or anticipated, taking part in when they got here. And they were just blown away. As we always ask our guests at the end of the trip if they could pop on the TripAdvisor and leave us a review. And most of them were kind enough to do so. And, we got great feedback from there. But I've had guests reach out to me personally, either on Facebook or pop an email or just to let me know what kind of time they had. For me, the biggest sign that we've done something right is when they say, I want to come back. Because that tells us that they've really enjoyed their time here, but they know that they've not seen everything there is to see. Because I think a lot of them come and they think Newfoundland is a small place and they can see everything in a short amount of time. And as you know, and I know, that's just not the case. When I have guests saying, I want to come back again, or I want to tell my buddy who's a photographer about this and I want them to come and experience it. That to me is the ultimate review.
One of the things I find that is kind of funny is that people come here and they actually go ahead and they look to see if there's any houses available. So they want to purchase them here. Here.
Learn how to capture the best images and develop your camera skills with workshops held in Newfoundland and Labrador's most inspiring natural landscapes. Newfoundland Photo Tours. Book your workshop today.
When it comes to photograph highlights and stuff, what would you say 1 or 2 of your highlights of images you got over the last season?
So I set out with a very specific goal this season. As you know, puffins in flight are extremely challenging to photograph. They're small, they're fast, they're just hard to track. So at the end of last season, I got my new R5, which of course helps in that with the auto tracking and all that. So my goal was to get some really good in-flight puffin photos, and mission succeeded. Both for myself and my guests. It's a great year for puffins, and that was part of the fun too, was sitting out with my guests and we were figuring out when the puffins were coming in and when they were catching the wind coming up over the cliff. So they were kind of hovering there for a second and you had a better chance to get that shot. Yeah, I got some really stunning in-flight puffin shots. And then my guest says, well, that's a big reward too for me. And Michael, you probably feel the same when you get a guest send you a photo that they took and they're very proud of the photo they took and it's a stunner. And you say, yeah, it's that's what you wanted to go away with, is just that, I always tell people, I want you to have a bunch of really good photos. I want you to have a couple that are stunners, but I want you to make sure you have at least 1 or 2 that are just lifetimers, like the shot of a lifetime. And they've been doing that this year. And I've got some of those puffin in-flight photos this year that are lifetimers for me. So 7 great.
But when it comes to the puffins, that's always a highlight. Quite a few pictures again this year. Like I said, backlit and stuff, and then a nice light shining on there. So when they cooperate in the evening, sometimes it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. One thing too, I almost forgot, when we were down in 20-gate this year during our workshop, that one of the guests, there was a chunk of ice out in the water, and he wanted it. So he took out his shoes and socks and walked out there in the freezing cold and hauling this big chunk of ice that was probably bigger than him. It was kind of heavy, but it's kind of one of those moments where it's just kind of, it takes over when it comes to what you're doing there. And it's all good fun for everyone, kind of taking iPhone videos of the guy out there in the water trying to get the ice in.
That's fun.
And But when it comes to photos, like I said, for me, the Iceberg 8 and 28 was pretty spectacular. I was out there a number of times, so I got it when it was huge and it was kind of breaking in with different sizes and arches and everything. Well, not an arch, but a lot of different pillars and stuff on it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, the one down in Bonavista that was hung up, it was in Datura for a while. It was like this huge castle with 4 big spires. But then it moved up the bay right into Bonavista, town of Bonavista, and hung out there for a while. And just going out every time and seeing how that one changed over time. I was there with a bunch of guests one day. As a little shout out to our Zodiac operators as well. Like the Zodiac operators that we use, top notch from a safety standpoint, because you know how close they can get or how close they should be. But they'll stay if they know or they sense, because you can hear the iceberg kind of popping and cracking and that. So you kind of anticipate that something might be starting to happen. And they'll stay until something does happen. And we were out there and it was just spectacular one where one side of the iceberg just sloughed off into the water. A wave came at the Zodiac and it was magical, right? Just to be there for that experience too. And sometimes, I mean, my guest said, did you take any photos? She goes, no, I totally forgot to take pictures. He checked. So hung up with what was happening in front of her, she forgot to put the camera up to take a photo.
Take a tour through this land's incredible vistas, wildlife, and your own creativity with an immersive guided photography tour. Get that perfect shot. Newfoundland Photo Tours. Book your tour today.
Did you notice any guests that improved any of their photography skills or anything over the tours? Like anything that they learned when it comes to their
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the Puffins again. I know we go back to the Puffins a lot, but they are a big draw. We work really hard. I work really hard with them, especially for the in-flight photos, like how to track them, what settings to use. Some of them are bays that you want to go up to like 3,000ths of a second if you can in right light, because the Puffins are that fast. And I get comments on that all the time. Like, I would never have got as clear a photo if I went with the settings that I normally would use to photograph birds, because it's a completely different situation out there with the Puffin. I think that might be the number one thing people will come away with, is just that ability to capture them. But we've run into situations for like long exposures, and we've done some work with people with ND filters to shoot water with the nice velvety waves from the long exposures. People have done that for the first time in their lives. Yeah, that's fun and rewarding as well.
One of my favorite things to photograph is actually kind of in the dark or low light. So I usually find, I'd say 80% of the people I'm with, I'm kind of teaching them how to take those pictures. So I'm happy when they send me the pictures after of, the, say, lower battery and blue hour or something, like how that shows up. And they're all, they can't believe like how nice it is, and they didn't know they could take pictures in low light or nighttime. And to me, I enjoy those pictures more than just your midday kind of shot of whatever. So
those photos of the lower battery are always a highlight of most trips. Like we go over there, a lot of people have never done it before, and teach them how to do that. When they see the results of what you get, it's a lot of fun.
The other thing too is when I mentioned about the weather and stuff in Newfoundland. Like last year, that was really nice. Like even June, we had sunshine. We had a couple that came and just wanted to get pictures of the scenery and wanted some fog pictures with the houses or the sheds and stuff. So I was there for 4 days, and it was like 3.5 days of sunshine, which is kind of rare in Newfoundland for, in spring. So we did get some pictures, unfortunately, of the fog there at the end, but usually it's the other way. We had so much fog in the spring and a little bit of sunshine. The weather, like I said, we worked with what we got, and we still got, good sunset pictures because we had the sun, of course, but it's kind of funny.
And that unique thing we had to deal with this year, too, with the number of forest fires that were around this season. And it did impact the tours. I was running a tour at St. John's, and we were going to go in towards Witless Bay, and the smoke was just too thick. We couldn't drive Witless Bay. We'd change our plans that day. But again, it just shows that we'll switch stuff up, make it work so we get a full days of shooting it. But you never know what nature's going to throw at you.
That, just when it comes to a reflection of the season, what do you think you're most proud of what we can have done this year?
Sending people home with full memory cards and full brains of memories, and giving them as much of an experience what Newfoundland's about, and much about the photography, showing them all the great places to eat, and just the conversations on the drive where we get to share a little bit about who we are. I always blows my mind. I always bring up at some point tours. In fact, Newfoundland was its own country until 1949. And my father was born in 1940, so I'm a second generation Canadian because my father wasn't a born Canadian. He was born Newfoundlander, right? And a lot of people who visit, they don't know that history. And to me, that's very rewarding is sharing that, the Newfoundland history, but who we are as a people with them. And I think that's what I'm proud of, is people going away with a more complete picture of who we are as a people and what we offer as a province from a photography standpoint.
So, and they said the times in between, like driving to certain locations and getting to know people and all
Yeah.
that, and like you learn so much from people, and not just photography, but just learn about life lessons or anything in between is really rewarding. And anything you can help to, of course, the number one goal is to, I guess, kind of promote in Newfoundland and all that good stuff. But yeah, just kind of when they leave with a good experience and they want to come back is, I guess, the most rewarding thing I find.
I had a gentleman at the end of our workshop this year stayed back for an extra day so we could spend an extra day down at Bonne Vista, one-on-one, him and I. And we didn't do a lot of photography in that 24-hour period that we had shared together because we had gotten so much good stuff previous, and he was happy with what he had. But that day spent with him just talking and learning about who he was as a person. He's a college professor, very smart guy. It was a pleasure just to spend that time with him and chat and just talk about things that were photography related. We became good friends in that 24-hour period. And we've talked back and forth several times now since the season ended. That's happened several times with guests. Not every guest is looking for friends, but that kind of connection and the time we spend together one-on-one that you're not going to get from a bigger tour. If you got 30 people on a tour, you got one tour guide, you're not going to get that kind of connection that we get. What I really like about what we do is the most you're ever going to have is 6, 7 people. And then we always have 2 of us. If we have 6 or 7 people, then that one-on-one connections that we make with people.
We're not those big tour buses where you gets off for 15 minutes and takes a picture and gets back on. We're more of come and discover who we are. And, we like showcasing what we have here, which is spectacular, especially summertime is quite amazing.
I get that good question asked all the time when we go somewhere. It's like, how long are we going to be, if we go to the Puffin colony? How long do we have in Puffin colony? How long do you want? It's your tour. If you want to spend a full day here sitting down in the Puffin colony, we're happy to do that. It's your tour. And that's, be able to offer people that. That's fantastic.
We have so much things that we can do. Like we can bring you to Puffins for a number of hours, or there's so many different locations that we can go to as well. So we just kind of do whatever they want and make sure they're, like I said, happy. When it comes to looking ahead now to next season, well, a couple of things. When it comes to the podcast, we're hoping to get some guests coming here and joining us with different topics. So we're working on that. So we'll have different guests in from birding to photography to a whole bunch of things. Icebergs again, and probably some whales, and even maybe the weather. We'll check that out.
Just how many birds are and how passionate they are and how excited they get.
Yes,
Other culture.
for sure. Actually, we got a birding tour that we created, and that's in August. So more for the birds. So basically, it's named for the birds, and we'll be going everything from, to gannets to puffins to little songbirds. The whole thing will be
Yeah.
going for that. And more looking ahead for the podcast, we're hoping to get a lot more guests on here this upcoming season. So we're reaching out and we had some contacts. So we'll update you as we go within the new year. And the other thing too is we have a new vehicle as well for next year as well. So that's good. So we've got 2 new vehicles to bring us around the province. And of course, we always like to have the best we can. And when it comes to travel, accommodations, or food and restaurants, we all go to. So anything we
To
can
mention
do.
that too, Michael, like our guests, every single one of them, amazed at the accommodations that they have. We have a few places that we stick to that we know are top notch, and it's reflected in the comments from our guests.
So once we build relationships with our third party business people, we're pretty much friends now when it comes to who we work with. So it's easy when something don't go right to change plans, which is always good. And we help them out and they help us out, which is always great to work together. When it comes to any new dates and stuff, that if you want to join us next year, of course, NewfoundlandPhototours.com, go on there, and we're actually getting pretty booked up for next season, but we still have quite a bit of availability, of course. And if there's a certain date that is booked, just give us a call. You can call us and we'll definitely work around when you're coming and what we can do for you, of course. So before we sign off here today in our year in review, do you have any final comments there?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank all of our guests, because without our guests, we have nothing. We're just two fellows talking to each other. They were all fantastic. There was not a bad trip this year. I haven't had a bad trip for 3 years I've been doing this. Guests all come engaged and ready to take photos, and they go away happy. That's perfect. And as you mentioned, our partners, the people we deal with all the time at our various Airbnb locations, restaurants, like Zodiac Tours, I want to thank all those operators too, because a bad experience with them is an impact on the whole trip. And not had a bad experience with any of those two. They offer the very best. So just a general blanket thank you all the way around. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to a podcast. Or just search for the Newfoundland Lens. I think you'll even find us if you search for Newfoundland Photo Tours. But search for the Newfoundland Lens and you'll find us right there.
For sure. So again, thanks for listening, and keep your eyes on the horizon and your heart in Newfoundland. Until next time.